everyone, welcome back to my friendly kitchen. I'm Maria, your host, and today we're going to be making chicken parmesan. It's a family favorite. My husband loves it. We're making some for my family's coming over later for dinner, so we're just going to prep everything here, get the chicken ready, and then we'll put it all together for you. So today I am using my silicone cutting board. If you notice, I'm not using my wooden cutting board, and that's because I'm handling raw chicken. So you don't want to put anything like raw chicken that has like a high potential for bacteria in a wooden cutting board, because it's porous and it will, you have the potential for the bacteria to come through. So I'm just going to separate these out and throw this guy away. Now I got the kind of thicker chicken breasts. You can buy chicken breasts thinly cut, but honestly the thicker guys are cheaper. So you can get double for less. So I just make a nice slit down the middle here of my chicken breast to kind of thin them out and make them two pieces instead of one, because this helps them fry really nice and even, and they cook up really well. So you could cut them down like that, or you can cut them this way across. Okay, just like that. So it's almost like you're butterflying them, you see? Really nice and thin. You want thin chicken cutlets for chicken parm, really, because you're going to be breading it, and you know what, this guy's actually pretty thin already, so I think I'm just going to leave him alone. You're going to be breading it in batter and stuff, and so you don't want to, have a really thick piece of chicken cutlet, because when you fry it, you may not actually get a cook all the way through. And then you have to, it goes in the oven for a little bit, but you're not really putting it in the oven to cook it. You're putting it in the oven to really melt the cheese on top, and that's going to look really cool later when I show you. Now my hands have raw chicken on them, right? But we're going to be breading the chicken in this thing. So before I wash my hands, I'm actually going to crack my raw eggs, because that's going to, I got to wash my hands again anyways, and the chicken's going in there. So I'm not worried about cross-contamination, right? Like when you handle two different types of raw things, you want to, again, see, this is why I didn't wash my hands. You want to be careful about cross-contamination. And I'm just going to start with 4 eggs in there, and then we're going to beat those up. Beat those up? What? Beat those in. All right, I'm taking this over to my sink now, and I'm going to wash my hands thoroughly. Be careful when you wash your hands and you touch your stuff. You don't want to, touch your hand, all with chicken stuff on them, on your handle either. So wash them nice and good, and then, okay, I'm going to dry off here, and then just in case, before I get started, I'm going to kind of clean off my counter here, because again, I don't want to, risk getting chicken bacteria. Chicken has very high potential for salmonella, so do eggs, which is why the cross-contamination really isn't a thing here. So you're just gonna beat the eggs up in here like as if you're doing a scrambled egg. You're just gonna beat them up. Now some people put water in their eggs to like make it more like an egg wash, to thin it out. It may help your eggs last a little bit longer, but really the purpose of the eggs is just to help the crumb stick to the chicken. So you can add water if you want to or not. Now we'll leave that fork in there like that. And then I have another dish here, and this one I'm going to put a little flour in. Just regular old all-purpose flour. And you don't need that much, maybe about a cup or so in the bottom here. And that's going to go over here. It is kind of a multi-step process. So, you do dirty a little bit. So you could do this in paper plates, regular plates, bowls. I like the deep dishes like this because, it's just how I've always done it. So that's what I like. And then these are Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. So Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, this is the brand I'm using today. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I use whatever brand is on sale. Usually, I'll just dump those all in because we're going to use them all. This is recyclable. And then that's it. So this is my setup. So it's going to go flour, egg, breadcrumb. And that's going to be the process. So chicken, flour, egg, breadcrumb. And when we're done, we're going to put them on the sheet pan. Now, I'm going to use some butcher paper. It's compostable. I love this brand, Open Nature. I'm not sure if it's widely spread or not, Open Nature. I'm not sure. It's in my grocery store nearby, so I hope it's in yours because they have compostable or recyclable things, which is really great and obviously environmentally friendly, which is what we're all about around here. All right. Now that's it. This is the setup. So we're going to start. I'm going to try to keep my hands as clean as possible. Again, just because, you know, touching everything, I want to limit the contamination with the chicken. So we're going to take our first chicken breast and just put it right there in the flour. Shake off kind of the excess. And then dump it in the flour. Now you're not trying to get a super thick coating. You want it to be nice and light. That's why you don't really need a lot of flour because you're not putting a ton. And then here's right into the egg. And the reason why I have 2 forks is because this fork will be eggy and I don't want to be dipping it into the breadcrumbs because then it's going to get all clumpy. Now, listen, you could totally do this with your hand. That's how I used to do it when I was younger. But the more I got older and realized that maybe old school practices of doing things needed to be cleaned up a little bit, you know, this is how I do it now. And then I just put it right in there. So right into the breadcrumbs. I like to scoop them on top, kind of pat it in, shake it off, flip it over again. Okay. And that's it. So you see you have a nice, really nice thin coating of breadcrumb there. And it's just a simple keep repeating. So this dish, it's, you know, when you get it at a restaurant, right? It's seems very like upscale, but to me it's like super homey and very reminiscent of my childhood growing up. Oh, this guy wants to come apart. That's okay. Chicken comes in all sizes. You know, we used to have chicken parm. You know, chicken's always been pretty cheap. I mean, again, I got this double-breasted, you know, and I made 5 pieces from this, and that was $7 that I paid for this chicken. So that's just barely a dollar, you know, 50 a piece of chicken. And then the eggs and the breadcrumbs, I mean, all of this is very, you know, minimal cost because you're not using a ton. I know I just used all of my last minute of breadcrumbs, but it was only about a third full for the other one. But I do have this backup in case I need more. But it's just a simple dish. And, you know, people, again, it's not hard to make. We're going to put it together with a really simple marinara sauce, which is also very easy and low cost to make using canned tomatoes. I'll put a link to the video of how to make that sauce to this one. I'll link it up together. So, and I just shake it to make it kind of flatten out again. But, you know, it's a very easy dish, but it's usually, you know, people are wowed by it when they see it. They're usually like, oh, it's so, you know, old school Italian, you know, chicken parm. You could put this over pasta. You could put this in a sandwich, you know, get some pieces of Italian bread together, make a chicken parm hero. Now, where do you come from? Do you call it a hero, a gyro, or just a sub sandwich? Like, how do you call it? Put it in the comments of what you call big loaf Italian sandwiches. So I know where you come from. I know different parts of the country in America call it different things, and then of course then other countries call it different things than we do. So I love to learn about that kind of stuff. You know, very rarely do my husband and I actually eat out for Italian. I think we're just so used to our parents, our moms, you know, having made delicious Italian food at home and the fact that we know how, they passed on those, oh, oven's ready. They passed on those recipes to us. I preheated the oven to 375. So that's what you hear going off right now, because we're going to melt the cheese in the oven when we're done frying them up. So yeah, so this is, again, it's a little time consuming with the back and forth, but even still, it only takes a few minutes to get these done. And this is, you know, for 5 pieces. I mean, for a family of 4, you know, you have one left over, you could split it maybe if you want, or someone takes it for lunch the next day. Or maybe dad gets a double portion that day. It also depends on the size of your chicken. You could also, like I said, you could get the thinly sliced already, you know, take out that extra step of cutting it in half, but you usually get about the same amount of chicken pieces that you just got from splitting it yourself, and they usually cost more because you're paying for the labor then, which I know. How hard is it to cut a slice of chicken in half? But like, yeah, they make you pay for it, which is crazy. All right. And then one last piece here, and then we'll move over to the stove. I'm gonna shred up some mozzarella or mozzarella cheese to put over this. You could do Parmesan cheese, Parmigiana Reggiano, or a pecorino underneath that. We just stick to regular old mozzarella because it melts really nice and it has a nice flavor to it. Now the breadcrumbs are seasoned. If you had unseasoned breadcrumbs, which is fine because sometimes those are cheaper, right? The ones that are unseasoned, you want to just put a little seasoning in yourself, like a little bit of parsley, salt, pepper, garlic powder, maybe even a little pecorino into the crumb, you know. That would be good, and that way it's kind of stuck to and it'll fry up along with the breadcrumbs. But you don't want to have no seasoning on your cutlets, because even though the sauce on it is going to flavor it with your sauce, you want to have a little bit of seasoning. So if I didn't have seasoned crumb, I would season my eggs or season my flour or season the crumb, or all 3 if I wanted to. But today we're going to keep it simple. So that's it. So nice and breaded here. And then we're going to walk this over and we're going to fry them up in our pan. So I already have another pan here that's going to be lined, and this is going to take up the cooked cutlets. This is going to soak up some of the grease when they're done cooking so that they can rest over here when we're done, because we're not going to be able to fit all 5 of these in a frying pan. If you have a frying pan big enough to fit 5 cutlets, you must be doing some industrial cooking, because, you know, that's not a typical amount of pans. Now you want to put enough oil in the bottom of the pan, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch deep, because we're shallow frying this, right? But because your cutlets aren't that thick, they're gonna be, you know, pretty much covered all the way around the edge, and that's how you're gonna know when they're done or ready to flip, because the outside of your cutlet on the top is going to start looking pretty brown, and then that's when you're going to want to flip them over. So that's a really good. So I put probably about a cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup of grapeseed oil. Now I'm using grapeseed. You can use whatever high heat oil you have, like canola or you know, sunflower oil, something like that. That uses olive oil is okay, because you're not, you know, you are frying, but you're not deep frying. You never really want to use olive oil for deep frying, but for shallow frying, you can use it. It's just, I think olive oil is a little bit more expensive usually than the other single processed oils, so I like to use the ones that are made for high heat, like the grapeseed or the canola, because they're usually a little bit cheaper and they don't burn as easy with that. So we're just going to let that heat up here. I do have my marinara sauce over here ready for us to go. Like I said, I'll put a link to that video attached to that, or you can see the other sauce video that I have when I made it from scratch. That sauce would also be very good to use for these chicken cutlets. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm not touching the oil, guys. Don't touch the oil. It's hot. But I'm just checking to see if the heat's coming through evenly throughout the pan. And it seems like it is. Because here's the thing. You don't want to put anything that you're frying. Now, this goes for shallow frying or deep frying. Okay? A little tip for you. Anything that you're frying, you don't want to put it in before the oil is hot enough for your fry. And what that means is you want to have like the sizzle. You want to hear when you put it in, you want to get the that you get. And the reason for that is because if it's not hot enough and you put your chicken like this into the oil, all that's going to do, now it'll eventually fry, but that chicken is going to soak up all that oil and grease, and it's going to be extra greasy when you take it out. It's not going to fry the outside. It's going to go like this, and it's going to just suck all that oil in. And so, if you ever go to I don't know, I'm from the South, so I'm not from the South, but I lived in the South for a long time, that I used to fried chicken places. When you have a fried chicken piece that's extra, extra greasy, it's because their oil wasn't hot enough when they fried their chicken. Or maybe they were batching it too big. You put too much chicken in the batch, and that made the oil temperature drop, and that's why they were so greasy. When you have that really perfectly crisp chicken that doesn't squeeze, you can't squeeze the oil out, they had a good oil. So what I like to do is test it. And so I dropped a little piece in there before, and it didn't sizzle at all. And so I take just like a little piece of crumb like that, just real tiny on my finger, and I drop it in. And as soon as I drop it in, I see the bubbles forming. So now I know my oil is hot enough, just like that. That little tiny piece is my tester. They say you could also put the bottom of your wooden spoon in there, but I always use it, and then I feel like it's greasy, and I just don't want to do that. So I use the test. So here's my first piece. And then it's going to fit about 2 pieces at a time in here. So like you can see now that it's very shallow in the pan. Just the outside of the edge has the oil on it, not the top part. And so when this gets nice and brown, we're going to flip it over and redo it on the other side. Now you want to see those bubbles coming out, because now you know that it's frying nice and even. So I'm just going to take my fingers here, rinse them off. So I'm going to use some tongs to flip these over. Now, you're not going to fry them for very long, because they're so thin. You're only going to really fry these pieces for maybe, 3 minutes on each side or so, maybe like a total of 10, because then you are going to put it in the oven. Again, it's not to really cook them, but they are going to cook a little bit more in the oven, and you don't want to dry them out. So you don't want to cook them for, 10-15 minutes in here, and then another 10-15 minutes in the oven when they're this thin, because they're going to be dry cutlets, and nobody likes a dry cutlet. No. All right. So you can see here, if you want to get in here and close up, right around the edges, you see how it's starting to really darken along here. So that's how you know that it's time to flip. See, nice brown edges there. That's what you're looking for. Really nice golden brown piece of fried chicken there. That's a beautiful chicken cutlet, let me tell you. My Nana would be proud. It's amazing the recipes that you learn growing up, like just the smell of chicken cutlets is bringing me back to when I was a kid. I mean, it's so reminiscent of like a Sunday dinner, or even just like a Saturday or Friday night dinner. Chicken cutlets were just like a staple for us. So you want to watch your oil temp too, because as it cooks more, the oil could even get hotter, and then you don't want it to burn, right? So you kind of have to keep an eye on it. So like I just adjusted and turned it down a little bit, because I didn't want it to be popping, because obviously, first of all, that's dangerous for you. Second of all, that just means that the oil's a little bit too hot. But a little bit of popping is normal. That's why you see the sizzle, because the water, the moisture content from the chicken is what makes the oil pop, because water and oil don't mix. So it's as if you're boiling, you know, but in oil and all that water's escaping. So that's what you want to see. Now you have to kind of check it. Woo! You don't want to do that. Don't skip that. You want to check it when it's on the other side for that brown golden crust, because you won't have that outer ring guide to look for anymore. Oh man, this guy doesn't want to grab on. Okay, there we go. Yeah, be careful when you handle this, obviously. Splatter like that can happen. But see how beautiful, nice and golden brown. And then we're just going to do the same thing with this guy. And this guy. Yeah, I don't allow my daughter to be in the kitchen when I'm frying for that reason, because things happen, and you know, you have to be really careful. You have to be mindful of your kitchen space and what you're doing. But you know, when I'm frying, she's like not allowed in this 4-foot radius of me, because that possibility of splatter, it just, I would feel so bad if that happened to her. You know, she got burned, and you hear these stories. Ugh, I don't want to be that story, you know. But with mindful handling, you can definitely, you know, make sure that you keep this good. That's why some people prefer to deep fry things as opposed to shallow fry, because a deep fryer usually have a basket you can lift in and out. Now you could deep fry these. That's fine. When you deep fry them, you can put them in an air fryer even. You know, you want to probably spray them a little bit. Usually, you know, it depends on what you put in an air fryer. You don't necessarily need a lot of oil. But for these, I would suggest spraying them, because otherwise the breadcrumb is going to look a little bit too pale and not like that nice golden chicken cutlet that people are looking for when they have chicken parm. So that's my little tidbit for frying. Be careful, but you could also do it all kinds of different ways. So it's easy. That's, you know, again, everybody's kitchen is different. Everybody has different things in their kitchen. I try to do the recipes to where they're pretty universal for the most part, but I also want to make sure that, you know, you have the ability to do it in your kitchen and what you're capable of doing. Okay. This guy is nice and brown. All right. And then after this guy, we just have one more cutlet to do, and then we're going to show you how to put it together in the oven to get it ready to be chicken parm, because you could eat these just like this. Like, you could definitely just make these fried cutlets, put a little bit of lemon juice on them. It really brightens up the flavor. And then serve it with mashed potatoes and green beans or corn, right? And that's a dinner. That's delicious enough as it is. The chicken parm just makes it that more, obviously, like Italian, you know, takes it from an American dish to an Italian dish to help it, you know, get that extra flavor to it. So it's an extra step. So if this is where you want to end, this step right here, eat it, because it's going to be just as good, just like this. But the chicken parm is really going to bring it up with the sauce. See, I just kind of checked it. It's not quite there yet. It's a little bit on the light side. But again, because you already fried one side, you don't have that ring around to give you the cue to flip it. Okay. I can almost, sometimes I feel like I can hear it when it's ready. I know that sounds weird, but I think it's because I've been doing it for so long that I just can feel it. I don't know. I'm sure there's lots of chefs out there like that feel that at home, where they just know. There was this movie called Because I Said So with Mandy Moore and Diane Keaton. Just the last one going in. And she's a baker. They're both bakers. Her mom, Diane Keaton, and Mandy Moore are bakers. And their big thing is making souffles. And She says when she makes a souffle, before the oven goes off, she just knows when it's ready. And I feel like, I don't know if it's so much a gut instinct or like I can smell it or what happens, but there'll be times I'm in another room and my husband's in the kitchen and I'm like, it's ready, take it out. And he's like, no, there's a few more minutes left. And I'm like, no, it's ready, take it out. And it's, for whatever reason, it cooked, different that day. Maybe it was cooler outside or warmer outside, because that can affect your temps, in your kitchen. So I just know. More comfortable you get in your own kitchen, the more comfortable you get cooking, then the more you'll be able to feel that. Okay. Well, this last guy is frying. I'm actually going to get our sauce ready to pour over. Now, look how beautiful that red sauce is. Oh, looks so good. Again, I'll put a link to this recipe. But I'm just going to put some here in be careful if you're over your oil. You don't want to burn yourself again. Okay. So there. All right. So we're going to take that back with us along with the chicken. Also, growing up, whenever we made sauce, we always had the can of water from the tomatoes that we were using. We would fill it up with water and use that to put our spoons in to help keep the oven, I guess, from getting dirty. Every now and then I'll still do that, but now I have spoon rest, and I don't know, maybe that just wasn't a thing back, when I was growing up in the 80s, but I just don't ever remember my grandmother or my mother having a spoon rest. They always had a can that they put their stuff in. So that was it. So you can see how the reason why I like putting it on this butcher paper is because it really soaks up the oil and it really keeps your chicken, and it really keeps it nice and crispy. And because if it sits in oil, if you just put it on a plate, if you don't have butcher paper, you could use paper towels or napkins or even a regular towel that you wash. You can just put it on a clean dish towel if you want to help soak it up. But the reason for that is because if it sits in there, again, just as if it were to sit in not hot enough oil, it'll just get soggy and greasy. And you don't want that. That's not good for a crispy cutlet. All right. Now, since this guy's by himself, he doesn't have to share the pool. He's crisping up a little bit faster than the other guys. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn that off. That scared me. I'm going to bring this back over and we're going to put it together, okay, in the thing for the oven. So just move all of this over here. And, oh, a little bit messy. Let me put that there for now. Keep this. Okay. Again, cross-contamination. This was raw egg and raw chicken space. And now we're putting cooked chicken, right? So you want to be careful with that. Again, this is still going in the oven, but you want to try to reduce as much opportunity as possible. So I'm actually going to be using a recyclable tin because it's already a little bit messy enough. I already have all these dishes to do and I just want to keep it simple. Now, if I try to very much limit the use of my single-use items like this in our household, we are very wise and mindful about those types of things. But if you are going to use a single-use item, for instance, this butcher paper or something like this is compostable. This can go into my composter here, or if you have a composter outside, or if you throw it away, it's going to decompose better than if you use like a wax paper with plastic or something like that. And then this is also recyclable because it's aluminum. So I do try to, if I'm using single-use things, do something like that. So I'm just pouring a little bit of sauce on the bottom of the pan, and I'm just putting enough on there to coat the edges and make it nice and saucy in there. Okay, And now I'm just gonna take my chicken and snuggle them in. Snuggle, snuggle. Okay. I might need a little bit more sauce in my jar here before this is all through. Okay. And here and here. Okay, actually, I'm gonna swap these guys out because he's a little bit bigger. Make it fit. All right, so just like that, okay? And then I'm going to pour the rest of the sauce over here. This is where I said I think I might need a little bit more sauce. Oh, no, that should be okay. Okay, good. All right, because you're not, just want to kind of get it nice in there. Maybe I'll get one more ladle full. Hold on. There we go. Okay. There we go. All right, that's perfect. And then I have some mozzarella here. Now you could use any brand you want. This is Polio brand cheese. This is the reason I mention it is just because it's pretty well known. And a lot of stores carry it. There's also a brand called Galbani that you could use. Any mozzarella, any shreddable mozzarella. You could even buy it pre-shredded. But we like to shred our own cheese just because we feel like, I don't know, it melts better. It's less processed. It's, it's just creamier usually. So, and I'm just going to shred a bunch of this cheese on top of these chicken cutlets. Now you could do this ahead of time and like I said, or if you don't buy it already pre-shredded, you could just shred this before you even get started and keep it in the fridge. But I'm just doing it to cover all over the chicken, because what is chicken parmesan without delicious cheesy mozzarella all over it? Okay, just like that. And then this one's here. Obviously, if you get cheese off the chicken, no big deal. You'll just scoop it on there when it's done cooking. Okay. And I like to shred it right on top, because sometimes if you shred it ahead of time, which again you can do, it's not a big deal, but usually you might have more. Like if you just shred this whole thing, but you don't necessarily need the whole thing. Now you have shredded cheese that you need to use faster than if you were to have left it as a block. Because once we start to mess with the integrity of something like that, you really, need to use it faster than that. And that's it, guys. We're going to pop these into the oven now. Like I said, I preheated it to 375, really until the cheese just ooey gooey melty. So maybe like 10-15 minutes. And then we will be back and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. Okay guys, so it has been about 15 minutes and I just checked on these and they are ready to come out. So look at how beautiful and ooey gooey the mozzarella looks. Beautiful, melted. This is why I love to shred it instead of slice it. I mean, you could slice it on top if you wanted to, but I love shredding mozzarella. So I'm just going to, because it really just, oh man, that's the money shot right there. So good. Ugh, okay. Save all that goodness for someone else. All right, look at that. I mean, you can put this on top of pasta. You can just have it by yourself. You can put this with vegetables and potatoes too if you want to, if you're not a pasta person. Or just like I said, put it between 2 loaves of bread. A little Parmesan sandwich. All right, so let's cut in here Beautiful. Look at that. Look how nice and moist that chicken is inside. Oop, the breading really just beautiful. Nice and steamy. Let's take a piece. Quality control. It's perfect. I mean, the chicken's not over dry, it's not overcooked. It's super fresh. The marinara sauce is perfect. Just adds that real balance of acid and just hominess for me, bringing me back home to kitchen. So I hope you guys love this recipe. I hope you try it out. Let me know in the comments when you do. And for more recipes like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time. Bye.